How big can I get my heart to be?
Thought Media Network proudly presents
How much love can I get flowing out of me?
The Real Talk Sisters. Deep, unfiltered, soulful conversations with Reverend Dr. Pjae Stanley, Reverend Kim Andrews, and Reverend Melinda Wood Allen.
How big can I get my heart to be?
Join us for Real Talk on Real Issues, Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Central, 1 o'clock Mountain. And now, let's join the Real Talk Sisters.
How big can I get my heart to be?
Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody. Good to be back.
Hey, good to see you. Yeah, we're just so busy talking beforehand. I wasn't sure we were going to get here because I was like, hey, ladies, we got to go. We got to go. I said, all right. And we just kept on chit-chatting. So apparently we have a lot to say today.
We do. We
We
have
do.
a subject today.
Yes. Yeah.
We have a lot to say every day.
That's true.
Hello.
There's
Hello. What's different? Well, first of all, we're ministers, so that just speaks for itself. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So my name
am
is Reverend Dr. Pjae Stanley, and I am the senior minister at Harmony Spiritual Center in Fort Worth. Welcome. Thanks for being here, whenever you're here.
and I am Kim Andrews, spiritual leader at Unity Saxe in Saxe, Texas.
And I am Melinda Wood Allen, minister at the Church of One Love in Dallas, Texas. Glad to be here.
Yay! Absolutely.
Our topic today is "There but for the grace of God." ...
Yes.
The
So
subject.
you hear that saying spoken, you see people looking at, so usually it's well meant and it's somebody looking at somebody that they consider less fortunate than themselves. And they say, oh,
Right.
but for the grace of God go I. But it's
Yes.
the phrase, if taken literally, is quite problematic because it seems to imply that I have the grace of God because I'm not in that situation, and that somehow they don't have the grace of God or they wouldn't be in that situation.
Correct.
I think it's usually not meant that way, although I have heard it used that way. Whoop, there but for the grace of God go on. You know, that's glad I'm not you kind of deal. But
Exactly.
but that we talk about, we know how it's used and what it's usually meant, and it's usually meant harmlessly, and yet it is important for us to choose the words that we use carefully so that we're actually saying what we mean, and we're being, as you said, according to the 4 agreements, impeccable with our word.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what we wanted to talk about today, is grace and who has it, and is there anybody without it?
Right. And I love the way you came into it. You said, it seems to imply.
Mhm.
So this is part of, whoever's saying it, they're saying what they're saying. And then whoever receiving it, you're receiving it the way you receive it. So the giver and the receiver are necessarily on the same page and not necessarily meaning the same thing. You know what I mean? And so to me, just even the idea of saying it needs to be grace around it. Saying it and receiving it needs to have grace around it, in my opinion. So I don't know that it's something we necessarily even need to use, but everybody can use whatever they want. But it's a fraught statement. Certainly coming from my background, it is fraught.
I like that
Yeah.
word. I like
Yeah.
that word.
Yeah, for sure. And we don't want to do that. I mean, if we're looking at and we're thinking a new thought that we're all one and it's all love and this and that, then we just want to be careful that we know what we're saying. But I think we're still responsible for trying to see that we're saying things in a way that is received the way we mentioned. And of course, we're not responsible for how someone receives something, but we are responsible for saying in the highest and best way with love, to try and do that. So that when, if we need to talk about it, we can talk about what our intentions were. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna say all that to say, what is your intention when you say it? That's generally the situation. When you say anything, what's your intention?
And are you speaking your intention clearly when you do?
Exactly. Exactly.
Anita just put in the chat, or we have been there and only because of the grace of God have I risen above. But that still to me seems to imply that
Yes.
I was able to rise above it because I have grace.
Correct.
Maybe you haven't because you haven't had enough grace. And
Correct.
and I think that's what we really wanted to talk about today is
Pretty
what
sure.
is grace? What is grace?
What
And
does
is
it look like?
anybody that ever doesn't have grace? And,
Correct. That's a
yeah.
question that we wanted to throw out.
And
I want to come back.
this is from a New Thought philosophy.
Yeah.
Because there are faith traditions that do think that grace is meted out by God, that it is dispensed.
Mhm.
And some get grace and some don't, depending on what you have done, what you've earned, how often you go to church, do you read scripture? And that is a hard line for some denominations.
The definition given to me in my fundamentalist upbringing was that grace is free, but it was just, it doesn't, but you don't necessarily get it. It was unmerited favors.
Yes.
God does me a favor. Even though you don't deserve it, God's going to do you a favor. And the way I like to present it now is that it's what you get for free and for fun without having to earn it in any way. You get just because you're you, because you have the grace of having been born. So
And unity, it's defined as it's our consciousness, the consciousness of God, and it is our natural state of being. It's not something that you earn. This is a quote from Margaret Pounders, who wrote Laws of Love. Grace has nothing to do with anything that anyone has ever done, nor with any outward activity on our part. Grace is an inner realization that we are already one with God, always have been and always will be, that the only separation is a false belief in our own mind. Grace is simply the truth of being that which we are.
Exactly. And back to hearken what you said, Melinda, about the fundamental upbringing, we actually had a song that we would sing that was, blessed and highly favored. And hello. And it was like those of us who went to this church were blessed and highly favored. And those who did, and by not actually saying it, but by not saying it, you're saying, by omission, you're saying, because we're here. God, we're blessed. And so how do you reconcile that with we're all children of God? We're all humans having or all spiritual beings have a human experience. If that's the case, then how is anyone outside of that grace?
Favor only exists because it's exclusive. It's not favor if everybody gets it.
Apparently this is the case.
Only some people get it and other people don't.
Right.
But grace doesn't work that way. Grace is not a favor. Grace is what belongs to you. It's who you are.
Right. And it's what love does. Grace is what love does. And is love separated from anybody? Does anybody get any certain amount of love than anybody else? It's God loved all of his children, all of his, her, its children, however you see that. So don't take offense about me using and humanizing it, but all of God's children are loved. I can't even imagine as a parent loving one person over another. I love them differently because of who they are, not more or less. It's that, and it's that one child has different needs and needs to see the love from me shown up in a different way, but it's no less love. It's no greater or lesser love than I feel for the other one. I'm just showing up in a different way because that's what they're asking for. This is what they're calling for. I don't treat them exactly the same. It doesn't work.
If God is love, then God's children, what we call God's children, are just extensions or expressions of that love. And love is love is love is love. There's some good love, there's some bad love, there's some mediocre love. No, love is love.
It's all that. And I don't know if you guys met my brother before he passed away, Terry, but at his last graduation, he lived on the streets. He had a problem with drugs, and he went through this program like 10 different times, where he was on the street and he came back out of the street and went to the Salvation Army's drug treatment program. And when he graduated, the last time he graduated, they asked, how many times have you come through? And he was the person who had come through the most times, had come through the program the most times. And he was just so grateful for that. So grateful for that program, so grateful to be there. And he always felt it was the grace of God that brought him in. So he never felt outside the grace, even when he was on the street, never felt outside the grace. So I don't know what that might mean to someone else, but to me, that's a powerful statement that he
Yeah.
always felt within the grace of God, no matter where he was. Yeah.
Yeah. We're never outside. Now, here's what I believe. So if we're anthropomorphizing God, God's always giving constantly. It just, God, that's the nature of God.
That's the nature of God, the nature of love.
We can put up an umbrella. We can put up a wall. We can put up a roadblock. We can bury ourselves in the sand. We can do all kinds of things that limit our ability to receive.
Correct. Right.
But it has nothing to do with what's being given and how much
exactly.
is given.
At all. And part of what we deal with, I think, on this planet as human beings is the worthiness factor. Somehow we have to be worthy to receive. And so
When to get over too.
Oh my God.
All the years in ministry, I identify that as the number one block of people to their spirituality is that feeling of unworthiness. Is I haven't done it right yet, or I haven't done it enough yet, or I haven't figured it out yet. So how can I be worthy of all the good?
So I'm not gonna even ask. I'm not even worthy to go to the throne. Go to the throne. The throne is in you. What are you talking about?
Yeah. My dad used to start prayers with Heavenly Father as we approach your throne of grace.
Exactly.
Well, even the statement that, or the belief that there's a throne,
right,
affects things unevenly.
It's below.
Yes.
Yeah. And even when a judgment, as in there are people that are less fortunate than I am. It's as if someone is given fortune and I am given some, but somebody else is not, or I have more fortune than they do. It's all a judgment. So I try most of the time to suspend judgment and just look at life, because life really, if we think about it, is neither good nor bad. Life just is.
It just is
what it is, and we can choose to judge it if we want to. But as soon as we start judging, that's when we get dug into our own positions. We don't want to hear the other person's. We don't want to see the other person. We don't want to talk to them. We don't want to engage in a highly loving way. So it can be it can be a little messy. I remember for a time, a lot of people were saying that, oh, I'm blessed and highly favored. You would just say, hi, how are you? I'm blessed and highly favored. How's your day? I'm blessed and highly favored. And I started saying to people, and so are we all.
Yes, yes, are we all.
Like after I did that for a while, people stopped saying it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that's
she don't get it. She's not one of us.
She don't get it. That girl does not get it.
Bless her heart. Look at her.
Yeah. Bless her heart.
I mean, I knew people had T-shirts that said that.
Yeah.
Blessed and highly favored. Blessed and highly favored.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all are. We're all blessed and highly favored.
Exactly. So this whole need to set yourself apart is really interesting to me. That your relationship with God sets you apart, when in fact your relationship with God unites us. It's actually unites us, knowing God, not sets us apart. What are you doing? What are you doing?
There's an old a story that's told in about a Chinese farmer whose horse ran away, and all of the neighbors said, "Oh, poor you! You got bad luck. You got bad luck. Your horse ran away." And he just said, well, we'll see. And then 2 days later, the horse came back with another horse. So you're the luckiest guy ever. You got a free horse. And his son's out riding the horse, breaks his foot, can't help on the farm. You got the worst luck ever. Then the Chinese army comes by and takes inscripting all young men up to a certain age, and his son can't go because he's broken his foot. So it's just it's that we label what's good and what's bad. We label it. God doesn't label. God is always giving. And I think Ellen Grace O'Brien said, things are as they are. What they are to you is up to you.
Exactly. Exactly. What you call it, and why we call it, for some reason, as a human being, we need to label things like, oh, I know what that is. I
Yeah.
know what that is. And we have to label it so
Makes
that
us
we
feel we
can
have control.
correct, which is an illusion, as we all know. But somehow,
What? I thought I was in control.
I know what that is. I know how to deal with that the next time it comes. No, you won't.
Mm-mm.
Because number one, it won't come the same way. That's number one. And number one, you don't need anything else. It's number one. It doesn't come the same way. So, period, Pooh. That's into it. Just always having to call on spirit for whatever is happening. That's my go-to thing. All right, what is this about, spirit? That's my question all the time. Whenever something comes up, what's this about? What's my role in this? what are we doing here? Yeah, because I don't know. And I give it over. I don't know what's going on. You tell me what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it's an interesting thought there, but for the grace of God, and I think at its highest, it can keep you humble enough to realize that circumstances change, as you talk about in that story. Circumstances just change. We don't have to glom onto a circumstance and say, because that happened, that makes me this. It just is an experience. We don't have to label it. We don't.
Nothing to do with you.
Zero. How you handle it is about who you are. What you decided to do. It doesn't frame you as something, as more favored or more blessed or more in grace. It doesn't. None of that. It just says that's who you are, what you did, how you've decided to be in the world, which I love, because that's the only control, if we have any, is that we get to decide how do we want to show up. And as you all know from my put the foot down incident, that we don't always show up the way we'd like. You know what I mean? I can have all the values I want, but then when something comes and it hits my heart in a certain way, then all that's out the window. It's out the window.
So here's the beautiful thing about that. As hard as it is to experience, having seen ourselves not be our best selves, in spite of the fact that we've worked our whole lives to live according to our values, is it gives us compassion when other people aren't being their best selves. Because we know from experience that when I'm acting that way, it's because something hit a deep wound in me that I didn't know or had forgotten was even there.
Right.
So I didn't know how to avoid it.
Right.
And so if I take that and extrapolate and assume that if you're acting in a way that your deep wound has been hit in somehow, in some way, and whether it was purposeful or not, I can have compassion that, because I know what it feels like to have somebody stomp right in your wound with them not even knowing they did.
Yeah, and because and as the thing we were talking about, I didn't know. It took me a long time. I recently figured out what was happening with me there. Just recently figured out what the wound was. I had no idea it was there. No idea what it was about. That was part of the frustration. Why can't you let this go? Because I didn't know what this was.
Mm-hmm.
And but this is the opportunity, isn't it? I think it's what all our experiences are about. They're simply experiences that we get to examine and say, how do I want to be moving forward? How do I want to be moving forward? Is this aligned or not?
Yeah.
Those are the choices. Right? So, and again, it's not good or bad. It's just a choice. It's just a choice you get to make. That's all.
And I think part of that choice is that when we can get to compassion and when we can slow down, then we can remember that we do live in a state of grace all the time.
All the time.
And then we hold that for anybody else who's involved in whatever just jumped off.
Yes.
So you hold that for them, you hold it for ourselves. And so from time to time, I'll say, give yourself grace, give someone else grace.
Yes.
And it's not like we are actually extending it to them or giving them a piece of grace. It just means I hold it for you, I hold it for me. And let's all remember that grace is our natural state of being.
Exactly. It's just a reminder, because sometimes you're in something and they don't remember. They don't remember. You're just reminding them. You're good. You're a child of God. You're blessed. You're all right.
I want to share, just because I love words and I love the dictionary definition of words. I'm going to give you a couple of other definitions of grace, which I think are quite beautiful. One is simple elegance or refinement of movement, moving through life with, effortlessly and in a way in elegance and in refinement. One of it is courteous goodwill. So when you talk about giving people grace, just giving them your courteous goodwill.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful, I just think that's such a beautiful phrase.
It is.
And to grace something means to honor something. Like, I'm going to grace you with my presence.
We always feel that way, Melinda.
I know you do. That's why I graced you with my presence today. But I love that idea of courteous good, but because of our courteous goodwill, we are able to walk through life in a more elegant, more refined, less harmful way.
That part. And I think that's all. I don't know. Is that the Hippocratic Oath or whatever? First, do no harm.
First, do no harm. Yeah.
First, do no harm. Yeah. And I think that's something we could all adopt, just in our words and our being and our doing. First, do no harm, and it includes yourself. Do no harm to yourself as well as others. Right.
Yes.
First, don't hurt your own heart, and then don't hurt anybody else's heart either. Yes. Yeah. I think we might have some break time coming up.
Yeah. Let's do our break.
Thanks. Woo.
Yeah. I know that Wayne Baldwin says they're living your life like it's golden. I love it. Living your life like it's golden,
Yeah.
because it is.
Yeah,
I love that thing. It is golden.
It is.
Yeah.
When I've started using the affirmation that I'm living a life of grace and ease, especially when things start to feel like they're getting stressful during the day.
Yes.
I may say that out loud and remind myself that this living with grace and ease is a choice, and I can just recognize what my natural state of being is and step away, back away from whatever it is that is triggering me in the moment.
Yes.
And making me feel otherwise, because really, as Margaret Pounders was saying in that quote, was that separation is a false belief in our own mind.
Yeah, it's not true.
We either see the state of grace that we are in, or we don't.
Yeah. Correct.
And interestingly enough, as I was sharing before we started the show, sometimes I have felt grace the most strongly and the most definitely during times when I wasn't feeling particularly highly favored. In other words, the situations in my life were just ripped from me one by one. The situations that I relied on, that I thought were representations of my good or proof that I was okay. People died, jobs were taken away, health was taken away, just one after the other. And what I find is that when I get stripped down like that, then I am forced to turn to grace.
Yeah.
Because and then I recognize, oh, that's what it's been all along. It never was these things.
Yes.
It's great that I had those things, but they were never permanent, and they were never what the grace was. The grace was what brought me those things for a time, but the grace never goes away. Continue to bring me what is mine for this time.
Yeah. Beautiful. And one of the things that brings me a lot of peace and joy in my life is looking over everything I've come through, all the experiences that I've had, the learning that is the expansion of my life. We are ever expanding. And at the time that you're being expanded, doesn't seem like it's a good time. You know what I mean? Don't necessarily seem like it's a good time.
You being
right. But once you are, and you certainly can't go back, it's not like a rubber band. Once you're stretched out, that's where you are. That's the new you. And it is amazing to be there, not to go through it all the time. Sometimes, yeah, A lot of times, no. But so that helps me in the moment to look at where I've been and how I've come through and how Spirit has always, grace has always been there. Spirit has always been there. I've always been loved. And prayers have been answered. They just weren't prayers I knew I needed to be prayed at the time. I didn't know that, you know? And so I just feel like that's how life goes. If you can remember that, you can just look back and see where you are now.
I have a friend that always says, you know, God probably didn't carry you this far just to drop you on your head.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that's not the case. Right.
It's like you may feel like you're about to fall on your head, but you're not. You're really not. You're always being carried. You know, that footprints in the sand thing. No.
Yes.
No. You're always being carried.
Not you.
You may think you're walking, but you're always being carried.
Right. And my mother had a great saying. She said, God don't leave you broke. So whatever is happening, you're not without resources. You're
Right.
not broken. None of those things. God don't ever leave you broke. There's always a blessing. Whatever is happening,
Love
you're
that.
looking for the blessing. What's the blessing? What's the blessing here? Because there always is one. So don't seem like it, but
Like
there is.
things are as they are, but what are they to you? Are you looking
Right.
for the gift? Are you
Right.
finding
Looking for the gift.
Are you open to receive the gift that's there?
I love it.
Are
And
you
that's a part
Already
of the
there. Yes.
yeah. It's already there, Kim. Yeah. Yeah. And that's
And I
back
think
to the go ahead.
I think this, being able to recognize that we're in a state of grace 99.9% of the time, or how often that happens in our lives, is a natural consequence of our spiritual practice.
Yes.
So if we are consistent with spiritual practice, and when I have been consistently in spiritual practice, I just knew I kind of floated in that recognition all the time. And then when life does start to hit the fan, then that just pops up. You're having a stressful time, like you were, Melinda, during that phase of your life when there's just so much loss. There were just moments where you remembered that and you felt that. And that was by virtue of the fact that you practiced and there was a commitment to that, and you were having this experience of God, and you were in the silence and doing meditation, involved in prayer, and living the principles. And when we do that, then when we do get hit by life between the eyes, then it just kicks up for us.
Right.
Yes.
So it's not that you deserve it more. It's that you've kept the pipes clean.
Yes.
Like the flow of good is coming, but
Yeah.
if you let your pipes get dingy or you've shut them off, then you're not going to receive.
Yeah.
The flow is
Yeah.
still there. So all you got to
Always there. Always there.
open it and clean the pipes. Practice is a way of keeping the pipes clean.
That's exactly what it is. And for me, it's a daily reminder before I put my foot on the ground. I remind myself of who I am and what is possible for me. And that if I call upon it, Spirit is there to guide me through whatever. And if I don't call upon it, well, I can just stumble a while until oh, wait, hang on. Let me get out the driver's seat. Let me slide over to the passenger seat.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's what grace is. That's what prayer is. That's what all of these things are. And spiritual practice. I was talking to a friend in Waco, and she was telling me that she just can't do meditation. And I said, well, no, not as long as you keep saying that. No, you're right. So why don't you do this? Why don't you just say up until now? Make space in your mind to have it. Up until now, I've not been able to. And just sit down and do it. That's all. So she's trying and it's working for her. Good. It's a decision you make. That's all. There's no good or bad. It's just a decision. That's all. Just a decision.
Yeah.
And
Make sure you're not cutting off the water or gumming up the pipes by
Right,
what you're
right.
thinking and what you're saying and the way you're positioning yourself.
Right. And and back to that. It's not like God is not there with flow. It's that you don't recognize it.
Yeah.
That's what the meditation and the time that you spend is so that you can more easily recognize, more easily ask for, more easily be open and receptive. That's what it's for. It's
That's
not
what it's for.
God's not going to be there if you don't. That's not it.
Yeah,
It's always there. It's always coming. You just don't recognize it and look for it, and expect it, constantly expect it. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It comes up in my Sunday talks often where I put out these reminders that, God is in everything. And so it's in your joys, your celebrations, in the losses,
yeah,
in the midst of our sadness, our grief,
absolutely.
when
Grief.
it
Yeah,
feels messy, when you feel crazy, God is in all of that. And so
correct.
it's not just, when the sun's shining and everything's going your way. God is ever present, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient,
Yeah,
always has been, always will be. And so all we have to do is get back to that, pull ourselves back to that recognition yet again, and remember that. So, yes, when you're curled up in a fetal position on the floor because something else has happened or another loss has clobbered you and pulled the rug
yeah,
out from under you, we
yeah,
really just need to get back to that God is here too in the midst. And for me, sometimes it might not have cleared up the mess right away, but at least I know that all is good, that life is still
yeah.
good, that there
Yes,
is still something here for me and I am good.
right.
yeah,
I might
Correct.
be crying and it might not look pretty, but I'm still there, and it enables me to rebound so much more quickly than I used to before when I didn't have that knowledge, when I didn't live in that kind of a consciousness.
Yeah,
and it's really an
correct.
important thing for us to remember. We are on election day right now, and
Mm,
people are praying all over the country that it goes one way or praying that it goes the other way. And I have heard so many people say, well, if this happens, it's the end. Well, it may be your end if you've decided that if this happens, it's the end.
correct.
But
Correct.
but if we believe God's in everything, then that means everything. That
Correct.
means everything. So
Mhm.
if things go your way or don't go your way, it's important to remember that God's got a blessing for you. There
Correct.
is grace in this, no matter what. And
Right.
I like to think of it as, a really good parent, aware, let's not use the word good, an aware parent of a toddler won't just say, no, no, no. You can say no all day to a toddler. Nope, 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 nope. What an aware parent does is redirect. Let's look over here. Oh, look what's over here. Like, you can't touch the glass thing, but look what you can touch. No, you
Yeah.
can't touch the hot fire, but look over here. Here's what you can play with. Here's where you can go. Here's the place that welcomes you.
Right.
And I have this vision sometimes. I like to think of myself as toddling along sometimes with God's big unseen hands behind me going, okay, I know you're about to fall, but I got you. I got you. I got you.
Okay. It's all right.
So at times
Yeah.
when I think, here, I want this is it. This is mine, me, mine. That God will go, yeah, but right over here. Let's just turn this way. Let's just turn this way. As long as you're looking at that, that's not what I got for you. I got something
Yeah.
better than
Much
that.
more. Correct.
This
Absolutely
idea
much
of
more.
redirect.
Yes.
And so ours is to allow us to stay open enough, to stay open and humble enough to not go, I know, and I know, but to go, it's possible. I don't actually know. I'm not aware of everything in this situation,
Exactly.
but there is an awareness that is aware of everything in the
Right.
situation. And
Right.
so I can surrender to that awareness and look for the good and look for the
Yes.
grace. Look for, sometimes the grace is a lesson and sometimes it's not pleasant to learn. But a lot of times the grace is just a different kind of a gift than the one we were looking for. Not
Yes.
worse, not less, just
Yes.
different.
Yeah. Exactly. And one of the things that I know that we want to do is, particularly when it comes to grief and loss,
Yeah.
just want to hurry and rush through that. And it does what it does. There's every grief or loss you have is experienced differently. You can't say, oh, that's what grief looks like. Yes, it looked like that time. And it looked like something else the next time. And what you can do, back to the history thing, is how did you come out of the grief? I was listening to someone somewhere, and they said grief is kind of like a rock that's in your pocket, and the more tears and rain that falls on it, it just kind of comes on down. You just melt it away, never goes away. It's a little pebble in your pocket reminding you of what you had, that these people or this thing was something that you loved. It doesn't go away. You don't forget about it. It's a part of your experience. Um, but love is here too. I'm here too. This is life. All of it. All of it is life.
And as you carry that rock, you are growing stronger so that it feels
Exactly.
less heavy each
Yeah.
It
day.
feels less heavy. And the thing is that I feel like someone that I love, if they're no longer on this planet and I'm grieving them, or the relationship is no longer available to me and I'm grieving it, it's worthy to be loved. It is worthy to be grieved. It's worthy of tears. Why do we want to hurry up and go through that process? What's that about? It's okay. Take whatever. And so you only get a set amount of time of crying. Like, you've been crying for a week. Let that go.
You need to get over that.
You need to get over that. Well, who? That's your comfort level. That's not mine.
Yeah.
And some things are just, you don't know what it's going to take. So why rush through it? Let it be what it is. The experience is the experience. And once you get through it, that experience, you'll come out on the other side, and you'll know what was there for you. You'll know what's yours to do now. You don't have to rush through it.
And talking about grief, this is something that's become very important to me that I've recognized, and now I look for it in grief.
Yeah.
Is that I recognize that we don't get joy when the grief is over. We can get joy in the midst of it if we don't block ourselves from it. If we don't go, well, I'm supposed to be grieving, so how dare I have a moment of lighthearted joy here? No, that's one of the
I love
gifts
it.
of griefs. And I think
It is.
you're more likely to get some deep joy during grief because you are more open. If you're truly allowing yourself to feel the loss, then you are
Exactly.
truly open to receive everything there is to receive there. So don't talk yourself out of it. Be open to it all. Be open
I
to
love
all.
it. I love it. One of the best things that I like about funerals, you get to think about it, and you also get to hear stories.
Yeah.
People tell stories of the loved one. Things that I remember when my mom passed away, this guy got up and started talking about her, and me and my sister looked at him like, "Who's this guy?" She had a secret life going on. We don't know anything about this guy, and it was just a beautiful thing. And so we got to go and talk with him afterwards, and it was just lovely. So yes, the stories are wonderful. They're part of it. It's you get to we got to laugh in the middle of a funeral. It's because there's joy there. Yeah, I agree.
One of my favorite lines from Steel Magnolias is when Dolly Parton says, "Laughter through tears is one of my favorite emotions."
Exactly. Beautiful. You get it all. You get it all in.
Get it all.
It's just quite amazing to experience. Yeah.
And when we try to avoid one, we end up avoiding all.
Yes. Yeah. Just feel it all. It's okay. It's not like you're not gonna be able to come back from it. Of course you will. It'll be all right.
Well, and even not talking about grief, but just talking back to grace. Since we're constantly judging things, this is good, this is bad, I want this, I don't want that. The moment we put ourselves in that position of judgment, of saying, I don't want that, then we have set up a roadblock. So that means if there's good coming from that direction, we are more likely to miss it.
Yes.
Versus
Yes.
saying, well, okay, that doesn't look too good to me, but I trust. I trust you. I trust you, God. You got something for me in there.
Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna
that's the question.
make myself stay open to this.
Yeah. Exactly. And so that's the question always. What's here for me? That's the question that I ask. What's here for me? Because I know there's something here for me. It wouldn't be here if it wasn't.
Yeah.
What's here for me?
And we can choose what's here for us. So we can either choose suffering, or we can choose the grace that's all around us. That is our natural state of being, or we can choose joy in a moment, or we can choose a silver lining. We can choose that there is a lesson that's going to bless our lives and possibly the lives of others. Because when we are blessed, I think we naturally bless others.
Absolutely.
I think so.
So
I agree with that.
choose that, or we can just choose that this is something devastating and it's only going to hurt me and I'm being punished. but that is certainly something that we get to, I believe that we get to choose.
Which doesn't mean we won't feel the pain of the loss. If
That's
we
right.
can choose joy, it doesn't mean we're not going to feel the pain of the loss. It just means we're also going to feel everything else. I love, I probably brought this up before. Khalil Gibran talks about joy and sorrow, and that if you block yourself up away from sorrow, he says you will laugh, but not all of your laughter. And you'll cry, but not all of your tears. So I want all of my laughter, and I'm absolutely happy to take all of my tears so that I can have all of my laughter as well, because they're the same. There's that you were talking about, that loss, that anything that feels bad just proves, loss that feels bad proves you had something that was important.
You had something. You had something that was wonderful.
Love, it is a measure of your investment in it. And so that's a beautiful thing when we're talking about the loss of a person. I was invested in this person's life. And of course it hurts that they're gone. But also it's a caveat for life. Wait a minute, what am I investing in right now? And is it worth my investment?
Right. We got to go to break, but I want to come back and talk about the things that have gone before me, and how that is in my meditations every day. So we can take a little break real quick.
See y'all in a minute.
I like that new snippet. That sounds really, that's wonderful. I love that. But what I was gonna say was that in the the loss and all and the grief and everything, but every morning in my meditations, I remember who has gone before me and what they brought in my life. And even if I don't remember everyone, I'm just thankful for I'm just that's a part of my prayer is thankful. I can't stand here and do what I do as a woman, as a Black person, without everybody who has come before me and lived their life and made a way. And I ask that my life is one that makes a way for the next person. You know what I mean? So that's what we get to do. Yeah, that's what we get to do. Yeah.
And to know and to take that in. I am, whatever it is I'm going through, I am making a way for someone else.
Making a way.
I am.
Yes, we all are.
It serves a purpose.
It does. We all are.
That's beautiful, Pjae. Thanks for sharing that.
I remember when my mother had her strokes, and every day I was at the hospital most of the time for hours at a time, if not 8 to 12 hours a day. And I remember consciously deciding that there must be something in this experience that I can be open to. Right. And I remember, especially after she died, that after she died, it brought up the grief about losing my sister, my father, and everybody else. Those losses just kind of stack up on top of each other. And I remember choosing or deciding one day that I was not going to judge a day that I was really struggling with grief as a bad day. Because I thought, if so, then life is just bad, period. Because every single day for a while, and I'm sure that period of grief you were talking about, Melinda, where it just feels relentless, that every day is just hard and it's sad and the sadness is deep and dark. And I thought, no, this is just a day I'm grieving, but it's not a bad day. Right. I'm grieving and life is still good. I still want to be here. There still is joy. There still is goodness. There still is abundance. There still is a lot of love from the people in my life, and people in my life really just showed up for me. But I said, I'm not going to judge it as bad, because I can't There's no way I want to get out of bed every single morning if I judge every single day as bad.
Exactly.
So I said, I'm not
Exactly.
judging it anymore. I'm grieving. I'm
Yeah.
struggling right now. So if there were tears and I was with somebody, and they're like, oh my God, what's the matter? Oh, I'm grieving. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, it's okay. I'm good. And I'm grieving.
And
Not
I'm,
but
I love
I'm grieving, but and I'm grieving.
Yeah.
And I'm okay. I'm good.
exactly.
it's something that's
Exactly.
I hear from my congregants who are grieving. Sometimes they'll say things like, well, I'm not doing too good right now, or I was really good last week, but I'm not very good today. I keep crying. And it's like, you're not good because you're not crying, and you're not bad because you are crying. There is no value
Yeah.
judgment going on here, but our culture does that to us.
It
People
does.
will get choked up and start to cry and say, I'm sorry. It's like,
Yes.
sorry for? You're
Exactly.
being a human emoting. There's nothing here to be sorry for. There's nothing here
Exactly.
to be sorry for. But that is one of those cultural things that's so insidious that we have taken in. And that's exactly the kind of thing that can allow us to block ourselves from the grace that's available to us.
Correct.
Instead of letting go of those value judgments and becoming aware of them so that we can recognize them when they happen, so that we can make a conscious effort to let go of them is important.
Exactly. And one of the things, just stacking on what you're saying, Melinda, and both of you are saying, is one of the things is that when we're grieving, people know you're grieving and they say, how you doing? Not everybody actually wants to know. You know what I mean? And so part of the thing is saying, is this a real question? Or is this I'm doing fine, and please tell me you're doing fine, so I don't have to stand here with you. Yeah. So part of that again is about to me, back to the four agreement, be impeccable with your word. If you can't stand with someone who's grieving, and then that's okay. Don't approach it. It's okay. It maybe not for you. Maybe it triggers you. Maybe you haven't finished the grieving you've been doing, and you're not ready for it. It's okay. But if you're going to ask that question, then be there for whatever the answer may be for someone. You know what I mean? Just be genuine. Just be genuine. And so just to know that going in.
Because I've been in another one of those periods. It's not the same amount of loss, but I've been dealing with health challenges myself, with my husband's health challenges, which have really changed our lives completely from where we were a couple of years ago, and where we thought we were going to be and where we thought we were going. It's just really changed. And there's been a lot of loss in my church community, some really big, deep losses. And it's been heavy. It's been heavy. And I'm not good at saying, I mean, unless I just know that someone's being disingenuous, I'll say, oh, fine, how are you? But I'm getting better at being able to say, things are tough right now, and I am well.
Yeah.
They're not mutually exclusive. That it's a tough time, and I am, for lack of a better word, blessed. I'm always blessed. So I'm not letting the toughness make me think that I'm not blessed in any way, or make me think that there's somehow a choice here, that things are either good or they're bad. There's some stuff going on, and life is beautiful.
Yes.
Both.
Yes. Yeah.
It can be a both and.
Both and, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think life is a both and. I think that's one of our major illnesses as human beings, is we've convinced ourselves that it has to be an either or.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's a both and. That there's constantly births and constantly deaths, not one or the other, constantly both, always. Every time it's day here, it's night somewhere else. And
I love that analogy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always happening.
And part of growing is the changing body. And when speaking of what's going on with you and Bob right now, Melinda, what's going on for me is just simply aging. It's simply aging and adjusting to a body that's not 20. So it simply can't do. I have to rest more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired more, and I have to own that. And you know what? Okay, I got a bed. I can take a nap. So take a nap. Wake back up, and off you go. It's all right. And so so just not trying to hang on to what was, recognizing what is. glad that I'm available, that I'm here to be in this community that I'm living in these people that love me in my life. I have so many great things going
Yeah,
on,
you do.
and I'm breathing. I'm still here for another day. So do I want to hang on to this day, talk about how things have changed, or do I want to hang on to this day, love this day, and adjust to what I can do in this day, as opposed to what I used to be able to do? And so those are the things that are happening for me right now. Yeah. You asked me when I got on the call, how you doing? I'm adjusting.
It's great to be able to say, instead of, well, now I have to take naps, to say, hey, all I have to do is take a nap and I'm good to go again.
I'm good to go. Good to go.
And what's not to love about a nap? That's what
About a nap. Right.
Oh my gosh, I got to go lay down. You know, when you're 4 years old and you don't want to take a nap, I usually look at them and say, just wait, just wait.
Just wait.
Just wait, baby. This is going to be a good thing.
Give it 40, 50 years.
Is it nap time? Is it nap time?
Is it nap time? You'll get over it. You'll get over it.
It'll be all right. It'll be all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
You know, one of the things, one of our agreements in our groups when we get together at my community is that we assume good intentions until proven otherwise. And I
Beautiful.
think that's also a way of extending grace and reminding ourselves that we're always in a state of grace. And that, sometimes people are in their stuff, but we don't have to assume this is bad or that they're coming for us or that there's something nefarious happening, you know, underneath or some ulterior motive. It just means they're saying what's on their minds right now, and it doesn't always come out the way we intend it to come out. But sometimes we're proven that it's not good, but wait for that. Don't assume that everything is bad. Even if especially if you're triggered, assume that there are good intentions and that maybe it's how you're showing up, how I'm showing up. So I'm always checking in when I feel like the hair is going up on the back of my neck and I got my reptilian self is reacting. Sometimes I remind myself, am I tired? Am I hungry? Is something else going on? Did I need a nap? Didn't take it? Did I not meditate this morning? Did I not work out? Because that helps me stay chilled out, you know, throughout the day and the week. How can I regulate this myself? And even if they have lost their minds and they're coming for me, I don't have to be reactive. I can take a deep breath and respond and let it slide right off of me and decide, I don't have a dog in this hunt. I don't.
Exactly. I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't have it. Yeah. And I love that you just said that's been a word for me this week. 2 words. Responding. Responding is showing up as me. Reacting is showing up as you. And I want to show up as me. And so the reason, so back to meditation and things like that, the reason for that, to remind myself every day before I get on the road, before I get out and among people, is to remind myself of who I say I am. And back to the 4 agreement, being impeccable with your word. Are you showing up the way you say that you want to show up? Because if you're not, maybe you're not telling the truth about how you want to show up, and you can rethink that. You can rethink it and say, you know what, that's not quite how I want this more. That I'm more this than that. Whatever it is a constant adjustment, because again, as you age, different things matter. Different things matter, and the little things, there's so many more little things that you can just say, this ain't even hardly worth my energy or time on this. This is crazy. I'm not doing this. We're not going there.
Yeah.
We get to decide all of those things, and I love it. And the longer you live, the less you give a rat's about things.
I was saying to our producer, Zoe, before you all came on, that I'm so much more willing now to say if something has to be done, that there's no rush. There's no rush. Doesn't have to be done now. And part of that is this recognition that I am all good, that there is this state of grace that I live in. And it is really all good.
Right.
And when I need it, it'll come up. And it's not that big a thing, actually. I mean, it's not like I do organ donations and, have to get one organ to another person. That's time sensitive. There's a rush there. That isn't life or death, even though I always, I lived for probably the first half of my life as if that was my world.
Yeah.
that everything is important. Everything's got to be done now. Everything's got to be done when I want it to be done. And then I think, why? Why? But
Why
I
is
didn't
that
start
true?
thinking that way. I didn't question it until it just was exhausting. And I said, I can't live like this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have control over other people. And even if it does get done now, then what am I going to do with it?
Right.
I remember talking to my mom one morning and saying, it might be maturity, but it's probably just exhaustion. It's like, I just don't have the energy to be
don't have it
anymore.
I don't have it.
My passion is to make everything happen exactly this way and exactly now. I still have the energy to do that anymore.
I don't.
And when I'm around younger people who are still, bless their hearts, doing that I just get to go, yep, there.
Yeah.
There you go.
I did the same thing, you know.
Yeah, there you go. I understand exactly. And for me, part of the freedom, the freedom for my life is to think, if something needs to be done, do I have to do it? Why is it mine?
Why is it mine?
Yeah, why is it mine?
Now, does it have to be done by me? Does it have to be done at all?
At all? There's so many questions to be asked.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone else, wants it done, I'm good with you doing it.
Yeah, go ahead.
If it means anything to you at all, baby, have at it.
Feel free.
Feel free.
I bless and release you to do this. I'm not going to do it, but feel free.
Yeah. And that, my friends, is living life elegantly and with refinement.
Yes. Okay.
With grace.
Because we are all in this together. And if we are all one and we're all in this together, then why does everything have to be mine or my way? It's incongruent. That's an incongruent statement to me.
Yeah.
If we're all God.
2-year-old stage.
Yes, exactly. So, yes, honey, let me see what you'd come up with, because it's probably going to be beautiful. And people just who love, come up with ideas. That's what love does. Love has ideas all the time. And so I want to be someone who honors your ideas, supports you in your ideas, and say, yes, let's do that. Or no, yes, you go ahead and do that. You let me know how it goes.
Yeah. And I think now the most beautiful thing of stuff like that is that I don't have to do it. That's what makes it beautiful. It's not mine.
Not mine to do.
We got T-3 minutes. So
yeah. Yes. So
this is how we winding up. How are we going to drop the mic today to get to see?
Mic drop. I'm not really sure. I think I've said everything that I need to say about this topic. I don't have anything further to add. I really don't.
I'll just say, make sure that you're making enough space for your grace, because you got a lot of it. You got a lot of it.
Probably a song title. Make space for grace.
Yes, make room for grace actually is a song on my album, but that idea of when you make room for grace, because it's already there. But if you're not clearing your pipes, if you're not paying attention, if you're not opening your heart and opening your eyes and opening your mind, you might miss it or miss the bulk of it. I don't think you miss all the grace no matter what you do, but you might miss the bulk of it if you're not paying attention. So just expect it. Expect grace.
Yes.
And once again, Melinda drops the mic.
Boom.
And we are.
Love you, ladies.
Love you too.
Always
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who joined us today. See you next week.
And Wayne says,